Here's Xiomara Mayo Ingram, like every week with your emotional cafe session. And today we have the topic fears. I know that you're all familiar with fears because it's something that we all have felt it throughout our lives. I mean, when we're growing up, we feel it as children. It's just amazing. Even newborns can feel scared at some point. They hear a big noise and then they start crying because they don't know what's going on, but they simply feel that emotion that overwhelms them, and it's pretty much fear that they're feeling. Well, it's the same thing with all human beings. We all experience fear at one point or another. It's something that is very common in our lives. That's why I said it's very familiar for all of us. But I want to be able to share with you some important things that we need to know about fears. And some people don't even realize that there's some basic profound fears that we all human beings share in common. And what are those? Let's go over and talk about them a little bit. The first one is the fear of being alone, the fear of loneliness. We all want to have someone by our side. We all need companion. We want to make sure that if we're sick, someone can take care of us, that there's someone there to help us take care of our needs, and to make us feel that we are not alone. It's to a point that as we grow up, we even fear the fact that eventually we can die alone. So that fear of being alone, that fear of loneliness is something that we all get to know. And again, it doesn't matter how old you are, at some point you have experienced this kind of fear. And if you haven't, trust me that you will. The second basic fear is the fear of dying. And you might say that's an illogical fear, because once we're born, if we have something that we know it's going to happen for sure, is the fact that we're going to die someday, eventually. Yes, I totally agree. But the truth is that we have that instinct of living, and we fear when something happens to us. Our main fear is that we're going to die. So the fear of dying is a total normal common fear that we all share. The fear of suffering. Now this one is different, because this is the kind of fear that we don't want things to hurt. We don't want to hurt. Some people don't even want to make new friends. Some people don't want to be involved in a relationship simply because they don't want to suffer. And they don't want that eventually it might end, or someone might break up with them. So they'd rather not be in a relationship at all, just not to have to feel that suffering. So that fear of suffering is something that also comes across as we grow older. The fear of economic insecurity, the lacking of material possessions. We all have that need of shelter and clothing and food. These are again basic needs that we all share. But at the same time, we have that fear that we are going to run out of supplies, or that we're not going to have enough food, or that we're not going to be able to provide for our family, or we're not going to have enough money to pay for our bills and to buy the things that we need. So that fear of that economic insecurity, it's always there. I have to address the fact that in some people it does have quite an impact in their lives, to the point that sometimes affects their global functioning, or how they perform their work, or how they interact with others. And that can become a problem. But again, when you have that fear of economic insecurity, can also be that huge boost that you need in order to go get a job, in order to do what you need to do, in order to make sure that you can cover for your material possessions and the material needs that you might have. Finally, the fear of not being worthy, the fear of not being loved or accepted. And I want to address the fact that sometimes this kind of fear makes us act in a very inappropriate way, make us rush into a relationship, or make us stay in a relationship, or make us do things just to please others, for them to love us or accept us. And that's when this fear becomes a real problem. We all have that need to be loved, to feel that others love us and accept us, and to feel worthy, that we are worthy of someone's love. But when it gets to that point that it's really ruling how you act and how you behave and the kind of things that you do, it might be a little dangerous, and it might make you do things that you don't want to do just for the sake of having someone accepting you or loving you. So just be careful with that. And again, these are basic and profound fears that we all as human beings get to share. These are common fears that we all have. And again, I'm going to say it's the fear of being alone, loneliness, the fear of dying, the fear of suffering, the fear of economic insecurity or lacking the material possessions that we need, and the fear of not being worthy, not being loved, not being accepted. Now, what is the best way to overcome fear? And this is the irony right there. To face it, to stop resisting it, to feel it, to accept that we are feeling fear, accepting that we are being affected by fear. Then you're going to realize that your fear starts minimizing itself, and you're going to be able to continue doing what you're supposed to do, or continue with your life the way you're supposed to be. Again, these are basic fears, and there's nothing wrong with them as long as they don't become too overwhelming to the point that you cannot cope with them, or to the point that you start having panic attacks, or you start acting based on them, you start acting it out. So I have other kind of fears that I want to share with you before I wrap it all up. And the reason why I want to share these specific fears is because these ones that I'm going to talk about right now are those fears that can become emotional hurdles. They can become a total mental block for you to continue growing or continue developing your personality, your career, your life, or whatever is it that you want to continue doing in life. And these fears are the fear of failure. Some people are so afraid to fail that they'd rather not try anything new at all, because they don't want to have to go through what they consider is a humiliation or the embarrassment of failing, or how the others are going to feel about them, or how the others are going to react to the fact that they didn't succeed. So this is one of those fears that can become a problem for you when you find yourself not wanting to try new things simply because you are too afraid of failing. The other one is the fear of success. And you might ask, Xiomara, are there people afraid of success? Yes, there are people that relate success with prosperity and wealth and having money, and sometimes they feel that they're not going to be able to cope with it appropriately, or they're afraid of how their family or their loved ones might feel about it. Sometimes they have been raised into an environment that promotes that is wrong, that being successful is wrong, and therefore they are afraid of success. So they will try to fail. This is the opposite, okay? They will try to fail in order not to gain success. So yes, fear of success is something that can also block you from doing more or accomplishing more. And finally, and this is the huge fear, the fear of the unknown, fear of new things. And this is that fear that blocks you from moving away from a toxic relationship, move you away from, it doesn't let you move away from an unhappy life. You feel stuck, you become stagnated, and you simply don't put your actions together because, you know, this hurts a lot and you're suffering, but not knowing what's going to happen does not let you give that leap of faith that you need in order to move away from the suffering. Why? Because you are too afraid of the unknown, and that is a very dangerous fear. So if you find yourself that you know that that relationship no longer works for you, or that maybe you're very unhappy at work, or that maybe it's time to move to another place, to a new neighborhood or another town, maybe it's another country, and you don't do it, regardless how sad or how depressing your circumstances are where you're at, maybe it's because you're experiencing that paralyzing effect of the fear of the unknown. And if that is the case, I have some specific recommendations for you. Because remember, this is a month that we're talking about choices. And we always have a choice. And you have a choice to make. You can either stay where you're at, suffering, feeling sad, feeling miserable, whining about your life, or you can start making changes, regardless the unknown. Just knowing that whatever comes along your way has to be better because it's no longer good where you're at. So how you remove that block, that mental block that doesn't let you move? First, you have to identify your fear. What kind of fear is it and how it's affecting your life? This is very important because, again, depending on the kind of fear, you're going to know what you need to do and what your choices are. So you need to identify the fear that you're experiencing and how it is affecting you. Write it. Make a list so you can see it clear. Practice love and compassion to yourself. It doesn't matter the reasons why you ended up in this situation or feeling like this. What is really important is what you're going to do next. That's the choice that you have ahead of you. So don't start, being hard on yourself and blaming on others and trying to find reasons why you are where you're at. But rather than that, give love and continue nurturing a new vision for you. Practice. Imagine that life that you want. Imagine yourself moving to a new level. Imagine yourself feeling happier. Imagine yourself not being where you're at. But you have to imagine and see those clear pictures in your mind so you can stop feeling afraid of what's going to come. You have to connect with the fact that regardless of the unknown, it might be better. Regardless what you don't know what's going to happen, nothing can compare to where you're at. And that's what's really what's going to push you and move you forward. Acknowledge that change takes time, but if others have done it, if others can do it, you can do it too. So embrace it and repeat yourself, yes, change is possible. Yes, I can change. I don't have to be afraid of the unknown anymore. Empty your thoughts, empty your feelings. You need to vent them out. Go hang out with a support group. I told you there are great support groups everywhere and also on the internet. Try to have your support net, which is those friends that you know that can nurture and help you and boost you to continue with your growing or whatever is it that you're going to be doing. You need these people. I have those people myself. I have my support group and I have my support net of friends that I can always call and talk about whatever I am experiencing, because as any other human being, I myself find myself sometimes overwhelmed with my own emotional issues. So it's always important to have someone that you can talk about those issues. And finally, and most important of all, you need actions. And that's the choice that you need to make. No one can make it for you. You need to decide to move forward. You need to decide to put one foot in front of the other regardless your fear. That's the definition of courage. To be able to move and to be able to act in spite of fear. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be afraid, but it means that in spite of the fear that you might be feeling, you move forward. You make changes. You do what needs to be done. What's going to be your choice for this week? My dear friends, next week we have the final topic for this month, and I hope you can join me again. I hope you can identify how fear has been affecting your life, and most of all, that you can follow simple recommendations that will help you conquer your fears. I'll see you next week. See you then.